What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Saturday, so time to take a look at ADP changes over the last 2 weeks. Last week we looked at risers, so this week we'll look at who is falling down draft boards. And I'll close the video same way as last week, going over 5 predictions as to who I think over the next 2 weeks will be falling. So the biggest faller outside the top 100 was Dawson Knox. He's down 2 rounds into the 15th, of course, after the Bills selected Dalton Kincaid. I've mentioned this in past videos that I think the hype is getting a little out of control with Kincaid. His ADP is starting to get a little bit egregious, so I actually do think that very soon, if not now, Dawson Knox is going to be like a pretty good value in drafts. I wouldn't say it's locked into where, Kincaid's going to walk in there, be their tight end one. If anything, like I've said in other videos, people are excited for Kincaid to be used in the slot. I mean, I think they're just going to run more 12 personnel, but the point being, Knox is still going to be on the field plenty. We want the touchdowns in Buffalo, so why is he cratering in drafts? So again, I think honestly at this point, he's a good pick, but if he keeps falling, he's going to be a really good pick. Another big time faller is Kenneth Gainwell. He's down another round into the late 16th. And I wanted to mention him because I think it makes sense. But I've also seen a number of different sites, like big sites, really hype him up as a sleeper pick late in drafts, as even a pick in redraft leagues. Like not even just saying, he could get you some points some weeks in best ball, like saying in redraft they would want him. And I get the theoretical appeal of the Eagles offense, great run blocking offensive line, but Gainwell's a pass catching running back. He's not someone who's going to go in there and get 15 carries behind this great offensive line. The last 2 years, he's barely had any carries. It's like 3 and 4 carries per game. Like he is not going to get a lot of carries. So yeah, they have a good offensive line, but if he's getting fewer carries than someone like Boston Scott over the last few years, there's no indication that's going to change this season. And since the Eagles also throw to running backs less than any team in the NFL besides the Chicago Bears, he doesn't really have that much upside in the receiving game either, even if he were the third down back, which they brought in DeAndre Swift. So it's like you need multiple injuries. I think even if there are injuries, he's never going to get the early down work because they would just sign a free agent. Even if Penny gets injured, they'll bring someone else in. If Swift gets injured, okay, Gainwell's kind of what we've seen recently, which hasn't been that amazing. Definitely not someone you can start in redraft. So even though he's fallen, better ADP, I'm still not attacking him. Khaili Herbert also fell a good amount down, almost around from the early 10th into the early 11th. Basically all coming from comments that the Bears coaching staff has made, not only about using a committee, which is unfortunate whenever you hear that, but never mind on a team that has a mobile quarterback, but also hyping up Roschon Johnson and hyping him up in the receiving game. So you just got this horrible situation basically where it's Fields is effectively their running back 1. Then you have this running back 2, running back 3, running back 4 situation. I don't know how much Foreman's going to be used, but at the very least, it'll be Roschon and Herbert, neither one of them being featured on the ground. Roschon probably getting the third down looks, in which case that's not even that valuable because like I just said, Chicago, there was the running backs the least of any team in the NFL, but it basically means Herbert's never going to be catching passes and he's splitting early down work. That's not amazing. Deserves to be falling by ADP. I don't think he's a bad pick because he's a running back I love. I think he's a fantastic talent. I think if he got the opportunity, he'd be awesome in fantasy. The question really is, will he get it? And I'm not sure that he will. One faller I don't understand on the same team, and that's Kmet, down 8 spots into the late 11th round. But I've seen him fall much further than that. I think I got him in the 14th round the other day, and I haven't been able to figure out why. A few different times I've been no, I've got to be missing something. I'll search for news about Kmet, but I can't find anything. So if anyone knows why he's falling so much, please tell me in the comment section. Maybe someone talked badly about him on a podcast or something like that I don't listen to. I don't know, but something's causing him to fall. They brought in Robert Tonyan, but that can't be it. That happened a while ago. They didn't go out and draft anyone early. Like, there's no real tight end competition for Cole Kmet. So I don't know why he's falling. I'm taking advantage of it, but I'll say this, along with another player we're going to talk about in a second, I'm just being a little bit hesitant because if you have a player that's falling as much as he is, you know that, well, he's going to crater in some drafts, so you'd like to be in those drafts and take him. But if the ADP keeps going back and back, you're going to be able to get him later and later in the coming weeks. And so that's how I've been attacking him. It's basically like, I know he's a good value right now, but sometimes I just hold off and he's there 2 rounds later as well. So you just get a really good discount. That's how I'd attack him. But again, I'm still drafting him when he falls into the 14th because I don't know why he's falling this much. Another big time faller is basically every quarterback. I thought this one was really interesting, so I wanted to mention it. So the only quarterbacks that rose in ADP over the last 2 weeks have been Lamar Jackson, because he signed, so that risk that he wouldn't has gone away. Anthony Richardson, since people love his upside, he's just getting hyped up a ton. Makes sense, right? And then Matthew Stafford. I don't really know why. It's only 4 spots going up, but I don't know. I don't really know why Matthew Stafford is one of the only 3 that go up. But that's it. Outside of those 3, every single other quarterback at all ranges of the draft has fallen in ADP. Conversely, 66% of the top 150 running backs and wide receivers by ADP saw their ADP rise. My guess as to what's happening is basically you have pre-draft quarterbacks are safe. The odds that a quarterback has their value crater in the draft is minimal. We know where the rookies are going. If you have a stud quarterback, a team is not drafting a rookie. If anything, quarterback value can go up because a team can have a surprise, draft an early tight end, an early wide receiver, something like that, an early pass catching running back. All these things will benefit the quarterback. So people like to take them early because of that. And I think that kind of carries into ADPs after the draft because people look back and they're like, okay, he was going at 50. You know, that's where I'll take him now, without understanding that like other people's value have changed. And I think that's basically what it was, is that before the draft, you have these quarterbacks who aren't going to change. So people take them early. And then people look at running backs, look at wide receivers, and they're like, okay, here's where they are now. But what if they draft Charbonnet? What if they draft Bijan Robinson? Like, what if they draft Zay Flowers? Like, you know, like there's so many different players where it's like, people just didn't know, and so it kind of pushed their ADPs back. But now that we know, all the skill positions ADPs are rising, and again, not all, it's a followers video, we're talking about other followers, but many are rising, and that just pushes back quarterback ADP. So it's not that quarterbacks, you know, a bunch of bad things have happened to all these quarterbacks. It's just that we know where everyone else's value is now, and so quarterbacks are just falling because of that. The biggest non-quarterback fallers inside the top 100 by ADP. Big one is Ken Walker, down 7 spots into the late 4th, and that's a big fall for someone that early in the draft. 7 spots isn't anything crazy later, but like when you're in the 4th round, that's a really big fall. I have been pretty anti Ken Walker thus far, so you all know I'm going to say that makes sense. I think he should continue falling. Zach Charbonnet is a really good all-around running back, but definitely a better pass catcher, but just like a really good all-around running back. Kenny McIntosh, probably the best of the 3 in the receiving game. He'll get work as long as his lack of athleticism doesn't hurt him too much. If the coaching staff's like, listen, I know you can catch really well, run these routes, but you are unbelievably slow, and so we just can't put you on the field. That could happen. But as long as that's not a huge issue, he's probably going to take 3rd down snaps away from both of these players. That's going to limit the upside. I just think it's going to be really tough for Walker to repeat last season's numbers, especially in the receiving game. And especially with the team adding JSN, you take more targets away going to him from the running backs going to him. You make them potentially more pass heavy. All bad news for Ken Walker. Again, I don't even like his current ADP. It's got to keep falling. Another running back down 7 spots is DeAndre Swift. And I'm sure a lot of this is because of the trade, but that did happen back April 29th when I looked back. I'm recording this on May 18th, so I looked back on May 4th for 2 weeks. That still gives you a range where like the trade had happened. And so if the ADP keeps falling, I think it's more that the market is realizing that they were too optimistic to start off with. Like he gets traded to the Eagles and everyone's like, ooh, the Eagles and kind of took him a little bit too early. And they started thinking about it and they're like, oh, wait, this is an obvious downgrade. I mean, you go from the team that was the #1 backfield for fantasy running backs to a team that's league average for fantasy running backs, but only because they're so good in red zone scoring with red zone rushing. Well, that's not Swift's game, as we know. That's why he's not on the Lions anymore. They didn't think he was tough enough really to handle the workload. That's going to be Penny getting that work. And so when you look at it and you're like, oh, wait, they don't throw to running backs all that much. He's not getting the valuable part of this backfield. It's not as appealing of a situation as we thought before. Still a lot of upside. Still someone I think you would be targeting in an RB0 build, a hero RB build, things like that. But I think deservingly his ADP has dropped. Another player that's fallen a lot is Darren Waller. He's down 5 spots from the early 7th into the mid 7th. But I will note, I have seen him available in the 8th round a lot, especially recently. The past few days, every single draft I've been in, he has been at least a half a round of value. No one is reaching for him. No one's taking him at ADP right now. So I would imagine when we talk about this video in 2 weeks, he's probably going to fall from the mid 7th into the 8th round by ADP. So don't think that taking him in the 8th round right now, you're like, nice, this is like the lowest he'll be. I do think the ADP is going to keep falling. But this is another one that I don't have a good reason for the fall. If we look in terms of targets for the Giants, I have Waller at 93, Barkley at 72, and then I put all of Hodgins, Wandale, and Hyatt at 70 just because right now we don't know what the distribution is between those three. We're going to learn that answer in the coming months, but right now I just put them all at 70, and then, we'll kind of adjust from there. But the point is, Waller's effectively their wide receiver 1, but you get to play him at tight end. And so I don't know why the ADP is falling a ton. I do have a decent amount of him. Like when he falls, into like the mid 80s, I think I've gotten him at 90 before. Like that's a really, really nice ADP to get him. But yeah, I don't have a reasoning. If someone does know, let me know in the comment section. I don't know why he's falling so much. I would imagine a podcast said something bad about him, so people don't want to take him. The only other one, like big time follower at least, was Dalvin Cook. I think everyone knows, if he gets cut, that's bad news. He could theoretically go to a situation where he's going to get a lot of work, but he was the running back 1 last season on a really good offense. Any change is going to be a downgrade. So I think his fall makes sense, but I'll say, I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly think he could be restructured and stay with the Vikings. I think that he could be cut and go to a situation that's not horrible. Maybe he lands on like the Bucks. Maybe he lands on the Broncos to where it's like, oh, he could actually be pretty valuable. So I don't think he should crater too much, but anyone that we're expecting to get cut probably should not be going as early as he was. So 5 players to close this video that I think will drop in ADP over the next 2 weeks. 1, Gabe Davis, which is probably a bold call. Actually, a few of these are probably be bold calls because many of the players on this list right now have actually risen. Like they're on the rise, and I think they should reverse course and go down in ADP. But number 1, Gabriel Davis. It's really just like, if everyone loves Kincaid, why are people also taking Gabe Davis early? He has never had more than 48 receptions in his 3-year career. They just took this tight end that you think is going to be playing wide receiver at times in like the first round, and we're taking Gabe Davis over multiple first-round wide receivers and Brandon Cooks, who's a former first-round wide receiver who has continued playing at a high level and gets a situation upgrade. Like, there are a lot of quality candidates behind Gabriel Davis, so I don't know why he's going so early. He should probably be falling. Number 2, another player that's been on the rise is Christian Kirk. He's up only a few spots, but he's at like 50th overall right now. I know that this one probably won't hit, to be honest, because people love the Jaguars and they just want to get their Jaguar stacks. They just want all the Jaguars on their team, but there's a lot of mouths to feed over there. And even as the clear number 1 last season, having a career season, he was 18th in points per game. Like, that is the absolute best case scenario and probably only gets hit if Calvin Ridley is like bad this season. So I get liking the offense, but this is the early 5th round. I think that's a tad aggressive. I think we're going to see a pullback in his ADP. Another player, Brian Robinson. I mean, he is part of a 3 running back committee on a bad team and will absolutely not be catching passes this season, somehow has risen into the mid-9th round. I think that's because on some podcasts, people are talking about just taking Robinson and Antonio Gibson. I am not part of that camp. Listen to how they've talked about Chris Rodriguez. I mean, they had a 3rd round grade on this kid. They clearly want to use him on early downs. A 3 running back committee on the Commanders? That's what you want to be investing a single-digit round pick on? No, I'm not going to be part of that. Robinson's honestly, he's the definition of a 0 upside pick. There's just no way he breaks out and is having an unbelievable season. It would be shocking to me if he ended up as like a running back 1, and I know he can return value as like a running back 2, but the ceiling is just non-existent for him, and the floor is scary low if, they're actually going to use Rodriguez. 4th player I can see falling is Jamal Williams. People are in love with Kendre Miller for a good reason. He's a very good running back, was taken early in the draft. Like, he could easily be their number 2 and then number 1 in the weeks that Alvin Kamara is suspended for, if he does get suspended, which he probably will. And yet, Kendre Miller is going around after Jamal Williams. I think we're going to slowly see those get to even, and then Kendre Miller will be drafted ahead of Jamal Williams. That means Jamal Williams' ADP has to fall. Then finally, I think Courtland Sutton's ADP will fall a bit. I think people are starting to catch on to how elite of a pick Marvin Mims is late in drafts right now. I think I still have him like 25 spots ahead of ADP. Please do Underdog drafts right now and continue to draft him late because his ADP will continue to rise. He was the first pick in the Sean Payton era for Denver. He was someone that we were very high on pre-draft. He's a great wide receiver. I think he sees immediate volume, can overtake Sutton, and if he can see the field at all, that's bad news for Sutton, who, let's be honest, has not looked good since 2019. So those are the top ADP fallers over the last 2 weeks, along with some players that I think will fall over the next 2. Please let me know who you think will fall in the comment section below. I'll be back Monday for another episode of Mock Draft Monday. Tuesday, live, 6:30 Eastern to draft with all of you and answer any questions that you have. So come with questions. And then Wednesday for a draft strategy video. That, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? How about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.